Have you noticed how many videos have been recently released for the X100 series? Well, I have. I've seen so many videos being released just in the last month, and I was just intrigued. I was like, listen, there's normally one or two content creators who talk about this camera, rightly so, every year because it's a fantastic camera, and they tell you why this is a fantastic camera. But in the last 2 months, there have been so many more people, and a lot of them are getting a lot of views. So that got me a little interested. And so in this video, I'll talk about how the X100 series is having a second chance at life, at least on YouTube, and also why this shouldn't be your first camera. That's right, a lot of people are telling you how this should be your first camera. No, I'm going to tell you why this shouldn't be your first camera. Let's get into it. So let's talk about why this camera is being A, talked about so much on the internet, and B, costing so much more money than it usually does in the US. Fortunately, here in the UK, the prices haven't been affected for us. We still can buy it for the same price as you were able to buy it a month ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, etc., etc., etc. But in the US, this camera costs sometimes twice as much as it does brand new to buy brand new, if you know what I mean. It's crazy. Well, the reason is simple. The reason is TikTok. Did you expect me to say something else? That's right. When something goes crazy on TikTok, it usually has a trickling effect on the rest of the social media platforms. And that's exactly what's happened here. There are a few TikTok influencers who talked about the X100V, the fifth version, a lot and showed some fantastic clips of them taking great photos and talking about how easy it is for them to just take photos in JPEG in really nice film simulations and put them on Instagram or in TikTok in this case and have beautiful photos. That's it. That is the reason why there is a shortage of this camera in the US and why Fujifilm is telling people, please don't buy this camera because we're struggling to produce this camera more and more. A 2-year-old camera. TikTok. Now, there is a great article. There's a couple of articles that I'm going to link you back to, so check my comment section out. They'll go into this a little bit more detail. They'll talk about the couple of videos that made it potentially go viral on TikTok, and also how the prices have fluctuated, at least in the US. Fortunately, in the UK, we haven't been affected by it. Thank God. But it's definitely interesting and worth a 5-minute read of your time. So that is why we've ended up here talking about X100. I'm talking about it. A lot of other YouTubers are talking about it. And rightly so. You're getting a lot of views on it. And I'd love for you to watch my videos. So, hey, it's a no-brainer. But in this second section, now that we've talked about TikTok and got that out the way, I want to talk about why this isn't an ideal first-time camera. Right? So let's get into the reasons. Let me talk to you about things that people universally agree on. The first thing is that this camera is a compact camera. It's a beautifully compact camera, and it's a nice looking one at that as well. It's compact, it's cute, it's a cool piece of kit. It's got a hip factor to it, right? If you're going out there, you want to look cool when you're taking photos, right? And this camera will make you look cool because it looks like a retro camera. It looks like a really expensive Leica. So yeah, it just looks really beautiful. Look at it. And the second thing that I agree that a lot of people on the internet talk about this camera is the film simulation. That's right, the fact that this camera has a lot of simulations, all of them coming initially from Fuji, and they make the JPEGs that come out the image, not even the raw images, the JPEG images look fantastic. So it's great for influencers, it's great for people who are in a hurry, it's great for your everyday shooting because you can just go out there, shoot, and there you have it. You've got a beautiful shot. You can take it onto your phone. You don't have to edit it. You can just put it on the internet, and that's fantastic. But on top of this, there's a platform called Fuji Weekly where there are a lot of recipes, which is basically a fancy way of saying that you can create a custom setting on this camera which will make your image look a certain way. And there are a lot of them on Fuji Weekly. There is a ton of them. They all look fantastic, and they're quite easy and straightforward to do as well. So when you add all of that up, you could potentially create your own look on top of a film simulation and have the images look fantastic. So yes, I get it, it's great. They're all great reasons to recommend this camera. And I would recommend it too, but not as your first one. So remember when I said this is a beautiful compact looking camera? Well, that's right. But when you look at it closely, what do you see? I see a lot of buttons. That's right, this camera is packed full of features and actually packed full of buttons. There are so many buttons, there are so many customizations you can make, even the straightforward ones like the shutter, the ISO, the exposure compensation. You know, it's got dials at the front, dials at the back. You can change the EVF to be a LCD one or an OVF, and that has a button as well. Bloody hell, there's a lot of buttons, and that can sometimes be overwhelming, especially if it's the first time you're using this camera. So it's not always a good look, you know. Sure, it looks great, but being able to use it correctly will take time. It isn't going to be a pick up and let's go and shoot out there. Well, yes, you can do that to a certain extent, but to use and utilize the full power of this camera, you've got to be patient and it's going to take time. And that brings me to the second point, which is the 35mm fixed focal length. That's right, you can't change the lens on the X100. Now you might be like, hey, I knew this. Well, yes, it's okay for some of you to use one camera with one focal length, but this kind of restriction can sometimes, especially when you're starting out, make people walk away from it. And you don't want to do that to someone that's starting out in their photography career. Sure, someone might love it, but there is more chance, especially if you're starting out, that sticking with one focal length will restrict you and won't let you experiment as much as you can. And that's not good. I want you to get into photography, not get out of it. Not good. So you take the fact that this camera is actually quite complex. It's a complex piece of kit, and when you get into the nitty-gritty of it, it will take you time to learn the behaviors that you need to perform in order to get good photos from this particular camera. And the fact that it's a fixed focal length, it's a 35mm equivalent full frame, and you cannot change it. You put those things, and the fact that this camera cost £1,400, dollars, euros, sometimes $2,000, whatever the craziness going on in America is. It's a lot of money. For less money than that, you can get a camera that looks similar from Fujifilm with a 35mm equivalent and have some spare cash in your pocket. So that's it. Those are my 3 reasons why I wouldn't recommend the X100 as your first camera, especially if you're getting into photography. If you've come from TikTok onto this video, well, then thank you. I appreciate you watching this video and watching these 3 reasons why this shouldn't be your first camera. There are a lot of videos out there that'll tell you what other cameras you can maybe go out and buy. Maybe the X-T30 is the one that I've recommended before. It's a fantastic camera, it's much cheaper, it does the same things, it does better video, and you can change the lens. Also has the same Fujifilm recipes for JPEGs. Just go with that. And once you become better at photography, and once you understand what different focal lengths do and maybe how you like taking photos, then jump into this. Then be like, yes, 35mm focal length is my favorite focal length and I love it. But if you haven't actually tried other focal lengths and you look at other people's Instagram and they have this beautiful bokeh and they have this beautiful compression and you're like, why can't I get it with my X100? Well, focal length. So there you have it. That was me, X100 series, TikTok, all things photography. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.